Hello, my name is Thomas Cormello, and I am the support manager and a developer for computer automation systems. In this video, we will cover the default search criteria feature of toxiCALL, new to version 4.7.36. The individual topics to be covered are: what is default search criteria, how to use default search criteria, configuring the system-wide default search criteria setting, and configuring the default search criteria for individual specialists. What is default search criteria? The default search criteria is a configurable feature designed to provide specialists with an easy and simple way to display cases important to their regular workflow. By using a default search criteria such as open cases, the time to retrieve and display the case list is significantly shorter. This allows centers with a large amount of cases on their network database to reduce wait times and increase productivity. The default search criteria is automatically applied when the search window is opened. Specialists can then continue to use any search they desire without changes to their regular workflow or searching needs. The default search criteria can also be applied at the SPI level for those specialists that wish to use a different default search. This will allow you to configure a default search to meet the specific workflow needs for individual specialists if desired. How to use default search criteria. Using the default search criteria is a simple process. Whether you are on the local or network database, pressing the default search button will load the network database case list with the default search criteria applied. For example, we currently are on the local database with no search criteria loaded. Watch as I press the default search icon, which looks like a pair of binoculars. Notice the default search criteria of open cases has loaded and runs for me automatically. Here is another example. Currently, I have an acetaminophen search loaded and am displaying the cases meeting that criteria. By pressing the default search button, notice that the open cases default criteria loads and runs, updating the case list accordingly. Notice too that if configured, you can apply custom sorting to your default criteria. In this example, we see that the cases are sorted so that those with a follow-up time are displayed first, with those past due at the top, followed by cases without a follow-up time next. Cases without a follow-up time are sorted in reverse chronological order by their start date. You can assign any saved search criteria to be the default search. CAS distributes a set of saved system criteria that we feel will suit most Poison Center needs. An example of some of these searches is shown here. Configuring the system-wide default search criteria setting. If at any time you wish to change the system-wide default search criteria, you can do this via the More System Config toxiCALL configuration screen. First, log into toxiCALL with supervisor rights. Select Tools, then Configuration. With the main configuration window open, press the More System Config button to open the system configuration screen. Locate the default search criteria area and select the three-dot lookup button. The default search criteria search lookup window will appear, allowing you to select the saved criteria you desire. In this example, we would like to use the saved search open cases plus last 12 hours of updated cases. Locate and select the search, then press OK. The default search is now updated. Save the changes and restart toxiCALL. Notice now when we start toxiCALL and select the network database, the new default search criteria is used. Configuring default search criteria for individual specialists. toxiCALL supports the ability to assign default search criteria to individual specialists based on their workflow needs. For example, if you commonly perform QA, you can assign a saved QA search as your default criteria. The QA search will then run anytime you press the default search button instead of the configured system-wide default search. I will walk you through the process of assigning a default search to a toxiCALL account, then demonstrate the change within the search window. Note that the current system-wide default criteria is open cases plus last 12 hours of updated cases. However, we want our account to use the open cases with do follow-up search as the default. First, we need to make sure we log into toxiCALL with supervisor rights. In this example, we already are. Then you need to make sure the search window is closed. Select Tools, System Tables, User System Tables. Locate the Spy List and Security Information System table and open it for edits. Locate the account you're interested in updating and open it for edits as well. Notice here the default search name field. Here we can select the default search that we're interested in. In this example, we want the open cases with do follow-ups. Okay, now that we've located the search we're interested in, let's select it, make sure that it properly updates, save our changes, and when toxiCALL prompts, make sure that you release the table. Okay, now we want to restart toxiCALL and verify the changes applied properly. Notice when I select the network database icon, the default search that's used is now open cases with do follow-ups. The topics covered in this video were: what is default search criteria, how to use the default search, configuring the system-wide default search, and configuring the default search for an individual specialist account. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and if you have any questions, please feel free to contact our support team.